Your home with BuildAid on Mix 93.8. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name's Graham Alexander. As usual, Simon looking after the desk and Kay looking after all of us.
And we're looking for a band tonight. And here's quite a difficult clue. I think it's a difficult clue. So let's see if Simon and Graham agree with me. Which band started out as the backup band for Linda Ronstadt? I'll give you further clues as we go along, but you'd be surprised.
Okay, Kay, if anyone gets that right, it should be more than a box of ice cream.
Well, Ian, our quizmaster, sort of grunted when I asked the question, so he may know the answer already. So if you want to win some ice cream and you know the answer to our question, send us an SMS on 41348.
I'm going to be chatting to Craig Denecker. We're talking about landscaping. Landscaping, a new home, your existing home, and all the things that go into it. That's what spring sounds like. Talking about spring, I'm chatting to Craig Denecker, and we're going to be chatting about landscaping. Craig, thanks so much for coming to chat to us.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Thanks for having me on the show.
The name of your company, The Friendly Plant, I think that's fantastic. It's this kind of name I wouldn't forget.
No, we hope not. Our logo is also nice and bright, so it sort of stands out amongst the crowd.
Craig, we're going to chat about planning, how to design a garden, what kind of plants to put in, and a whole lot of other stuff. But before we start, how did you get into this?
Basically, it started with a parcel of land that I bought back in the mid-90s, which I started growing plants, and then I had a wholesale nursery which I still have today, and that branched out into landscaping, where we saw a gap in the market where people needed to have a properly planned garden, because quite often landscaping consists of someone doing a rough sketch which isn't drawn to scale. It's more of a concept than a proper plan, and we do all our designs in CAD software, so everything's drawn to scale and it quantifies what people are buying. So that was basically what set us apart, and then since then we've won numerous awards. We've got clients in 15 different countries all over South Africa, so it's just grown leaps and bounds from 2006 when we started with the landscaping.
We obviously chat about architecture often on the show, and landscape architecture and so on. And part of that is it's a learning experience for whoever's listening to us about using specialists. Because some people go, you're going to use what? Someone to design my lawn. And people can simplify things, unfortunately, and not understand that you do need people that know what they're talking about. So you put the right plant in the right area, in the right soil, and so on. Do you find that it's a tough market when it comes to accepting landscaping as a profession or a service?
It can be, because gardening is a massive hobby. So you have people that assume that it's an easy thing to do, but what we do is we save people spending money on mistakes that we've already made many times over the years. So by hiring a professional, it just gives you a bit more peace of mind, that you know that plants are being put in the correct positions, that they are placed according to the size that they're going to ultimately mature at. So it's peace of mind is probably the biggest reason that you know if you want to do it properly, you get an architect to design your house. Why not have someone properly design your garden?
I think when it comes to residential building and property, a lot of people make the mistake of what's DIY and what's not DIY. Like designing your home shouldn't be DIY. No. You should be using an expert to do that. And I guess in a garden it's the same. There may be some areas that are DIY. People like enjoying gardening and so on, but there may be areas where they need help.
We see it a lot with our business, because we always start with a design. Sometimes we have clients who are avid gardeners who actually want to install the gardens themselves, and as long as they're following a plan that's been well thought out and designed according to their specifications, their wish list, if you will, they can plant it themselves, because planting a garden is not rocket science. It's just takes a bit of time and a bit of sweat.
Have you ever worked with a family or a husband and wife where you guys are there and they're with you?
We've had quite a few interesting experiences, even when we become their reality show. They sit and watch every move, and as things happen, they get excited when they see things starting to be built, especially with the building work. We do a lot of building work in the gardens as well.
Obviously, when it comes to building work, that's a very important aspect to making a garden what it could be, and we're going to chat about that aspect later in the show. Do you work closely with architects, or do you find that you work? I'm talking residential now. I know you guys do a lot of hotels and so on, but in the residential market, do you find you talk to the architects more, or do you talk to the homeowner?
We mainly talk to the homeowners, but we deal with a number of architects where they want us to be able to design a garden that complements the house that they've designed. So they have trust in us that we will help put the best clothing on their model, so to speak. And most of the time we deal directly with the clients, even once we've been introduced by an architect, because ultimately it's an emotional thing. It's your home. It's not just a house. It's not a building that you're just putting up for the sake of putting up. So people become emotionally attached to their gardens, and it's a place they're going to spend many, many hours in, and happy times and celebrations. So it's got to be something that's done correctly for them. There's no generic garden that one can design.
Craig, you guys have could I call it a farm?
Yeah,
where
we call
you
it a plant farm.
Yeah.
We just farm above the ground.
How do people get to come and see what's going on there, or
so
plants that they're going to buy?
What happens is the plant farm that we operate and own is 44 acres, so it's a really, really big place. What happens is it's not open to the general public. We supply to export markets all over Africa and the Middle East, and local nurseries and landscapers. So when our designs are finished with each client, we invite them through there. They get to experience the almost a miniature version of their garden in a way that we explain the design to them, and we also do a display area with the plants for their garden. So they get to fine-tune the garden, make sure that the plants that are there are to their liking, and they also then understand the sizes involved, because obviously with planting, if you want a bigger plant, it costs more because you're buying the time that it took for the plant to get there and all the maintenance that was involved in the whole time, that same space of time.
Okay. Craig, we mentioned drawings, and earlier on a video that I had a look at on your cell phone, and just that everybody can see the kind of presentation that you do in a model form. It's almost realistic. Or in fact, it's very realistic. You have it on YouTube.
Yes, we've got, if people go to YouTube and search on The Friendly Plant, they'll come up with our YouTube channel, and we've got some examples of our 3D designs. So the 3D designs we primarily do for hardscape features, the built elements of the garden, but in certain instances we also do plants just to show the look and feel. But the whole garden would cost a lot of money to design. We have done it in the past for a couple of clients, but it's better to have the framework done in the 2D, and where there are areas where you can't properly visualize, especially those outdoor living spaces, get that done in 3D. But it's an animated 3D rendered video. So
Okay.
the water flows, the fires flicker, the birds fly overhead. It's extremely realistic.
So that's The Friendly Plant. Just go to YouTube, search The Friendly Plant, and those videos will pop up. And on the subject of YouTube and videos, all BuildAid shows are videoed, care of Ian, who's standing right behind me. And the same thing, go to YouTube and type in BuildAid, and you can watch all of these shows and see why we're not on TV. And every time I say
Speak to yourself.
Kay and Simon throw something at me. No, they're all edited down, and it's really, if you missed one of the shows, check it out. It's really cool. Price. Now, this is something I like talking about, because sometimes the market can get it like really wrong. You know, you think a heat pump, they go, no, it's 100 grand. You say, no, it's not 100 grand, it's 30 grand. Very difficult to price anything, and I guess that landscaping would probably be one of the most difficult. But Craig, just to give us an idea, if I had a home in, let's say, Parkmore, that's maybe the middle of our footprint as a radio station. I think those sites are quarter-acre sites, so they're not very big. And I own a home there, and I want to rip everything out. Obviously not the big plants and big trees, and redo it completely, maybe with a fire pit and so on. I think we understand how we need to go about that. What would it cost?
So in terms of the planting value, if you were to budget somewhere between, just strictly for plants, somewhere between probably 35 and 60,000 rand, depending on what size plants you're using and how densely populated your garden is with plants. And that's for a supervised installation. And then the fire pit would add another somewhere between 25 and I suppose the sky's almost the limit, because it depends on whether your fire pit is just a fire pit or whether it also incorporates some kind of an outdoor kitchen area, a roofing structure. All of those things will obviously add to the cost.
When you do this, the layout of a garden, particularly in a new home, the architect would take your drawings and maybe put them on his drawings, or he'll submit yours separately. If we look at new estates, and I think of Waterfall Country Estate, you have to submit a landscape drawing.
Yes.
And it has to be approved, and it has to have the right plants and so on.
That's right, yes. So they have guidelines which we have to follow. So we adhere to so all most of the bigger estates nowadays, Helderfontein, Steyn City, all those places have got their rule book that you have to follow. Even the architects have got specific aesthetics they have to stick to. And we would obviously work around those designs, and then our clients typically would need the landscape design to form part of their pack that they need a homeowner's approval for. So they can't just put in any plants that they want to. That's got to be according to the state law rules, and they need to see a plan to understand where everything is going, and then they also inspect the sites once the installation happens to see that it is actually happening according to plan. So some places are more strict than others, but they're trying to get a similar aesthetic throughout the estate. They don't want to have something that stands out like a sore thumb.
I was just thinking of the concept in my mind of not having the plans approved, and I was going to use the word illegal, which would be the wrong word unless you guys have specified some little green bushes. Which they probably wouldn't pick up if you used the botanical name. On that subject, has anybody ever incorporated these little green bushes into their design?
No, not in their design, but you do come across them every now and then, and there's always the big surprised look when they say, "Oh, I didn't know that was there."
Craig, thank you so much for coming to chat to us.
No, thanks very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, and we learnt a lot this evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay, so put us out of our misery then.
Okay, we're looking for the band called the Eagles. Did you know that they were the backup band for Linda Ronstadt? I didn't know that, but just about everyone else out there did know that. So well done for getting it right. And our winners of ice cream tonight are Paul and Lee. So we're going to get hold of you tomorrow to organize.
Paul and Lee, or Paul and Lee?
two different people, Paul and Lee.
Okay, well, we don't get many SMSs from partners, do we?
No, we do, but they always put, there's no gaps in the end. So it's just like Sean and Michelle, or quick.
Okay. Thanks to Simon and to Ian, the man videoing the show, and to Kay for looking after all of us. And thanks to Craig Denecker from The Friendly Plant. Up next is The Greatest Show on Earth, brought to you by Simon. He's going to be playing some wonderful music after the break. We do this every Wednesday between 6 and 7. Chat to you next week. Ciao.
Your home with BuildAid on Mix brings you all sorts of interesting info about building. Graham Alexander chats to different guests every Wednesday evening between 6 and 7. Proudly brought to you by AfriSam. AfriSam, creating concrete possibilities.